Thank you. Good morning. It was yesterday night I was trying to reduce the number of slides I should use in this presentation. And I was recalling the definition of Joanna we had yesterday, of intelligence, doing the right thing at the right moment. So I was doing the right thing, trying to reduce the number of slides at the right moment before the presentation. However, it was completely the other way around. I was increasing the number of slides. I was reading the comments on Twitter, on LinkedIn, when I posted the definition of Johanna, and I wanted to bring today, no, we don't have one definition. We have a lot of definitions, people against definition, in favor of the definition of Johanna. And I was trying to add these slides to my presentation. So if I develop an algorithm that tells whether I am intelligent or not, based on these facts, doing the right thing, yes, at the right moment, yes, but I was doing exactly the opposite, then you can guess what the result can be. So this will be the topic now, or from now on. We have a lot of definitions of artificial intelligence, of intelligence as well. And I will try to show you what we are doing in this area, what we have done recently and what we are still doing. This is in collaboration with more people, so I'm not the only one working in this project. And in the AEI Sentinel initiative, our goal is to try to understand intelligence, to try to understand, so not only define intelligence, but also to understand intelligence. But there is a problem with intelligence. So intelligence has not been well defined till yet. And we have worked with definitions in a lot of different areas. And we don't have still a well-defined but also well-accepted, agreed-upon definition of intelligence. And we have a lot of different ones still today, not only in AI, in the AI community, but also in neurosciences, etc., etc. So maybe we are trying to define something that we cannot define well. And we need, however, a definition for a lot of reasons. One of them is that when we don't have specifications, or we don't know exactly what we are working with, this can be very dangerous, because a lot of people can do with that anything they want, for example. So we don't only have terminators, but we have female terminators when we talk about artificial intelligence. Well, not we, but when some people talk about artificial intelligence. So imagine the headlines. Professor of computer science develops a program that tells her she is not intelligent. It only affects me. But we have unused programs that affect the life, or could affect the life of millions of people. So we may be creating some false expectations that could also have implications in the funding of research about intelligence, about a lot of different areas that are not only machine learning. So artificial intelligence is not only deep learning, it is not only machine learning. And this could, in the best, or in the worst, maybe, misinform the general public, the people that deal with these algorithms, that use these algorithms. We need also a clear picture of AI. If we want to make these programs transparent enough, and if we want also to make them socially fair, for example. But we also need that, or one definition, or best possible, or some boundaries around the definition of artificial intelligence if we want to regulate governance and govern the governance of these programs we are using. But also it is a problem when we want to trace the evolution of artificial intelligence, so to study the origins of artificial intelligence. It's a very difficult task because we don't find the definitions, maybe the more appropriated to a particular scenario. So this is why we think it is very important to define what intelligence is, or the boundaries that mean, in order to understand intelligence better, but also in order to define and to build machines that will replicate, that are replicating, and that maybe could exceed human intelligence. Our focus is, we want to know about the boundaries, so we don't have to come up with the perfect definition of intelligence, because maybe this is not possible. But we want to know the boundaries, and we want to know, we want to study, we want to try to find which are the best, or which are the capabilities that are important to consider when we define intelligence. So maybe there is something missing. Or we want also to find what should be a good definition in general, and what should be a good definition of intelligence as well. So one of our areas we are focusing in is to develop a catalog, a map, or some ontology that, depending on experts' opinions, could give some guess about how to classify which are the different aspects contributing to intelligence. And this is what we have done, because we want to get clarity in defining what intelligence is, and we collected experts' opinions. And this is what I will show you today, what experts say about artificial intelligence. This is the research survey we have conducted, which is defining machine, between parentheses, machine intelligence. And we collected responses from more than 500 experts during 1 year. We closed the survey last July, but it is still open, so you can still participate in the survey. And we collected more than 4,000 opinions about definitions of intelligence, and also more than 300 new definitions of intelligence. So we wanted to have some idea which is the best definition that people agree upon. And now we have more than 300 definitions. So it is not an easy task. Some data about or some results. So the top nationality is the United States. Almost 1/3 of the participants come from the United States, but also more than 1/3 work in the United States. But we also have other countries that participated, more than 180 different institutions, representing more than 180 different institutions around the world. For those people that provided the institutions, so it was 200 and something people, so not everybody provided this information. And the majority coming from academia, but we also have from industry, and the majority of these people also being or working as researchers, but we also have educators, developers, students that participated. This is very important. So the majority of the people come from computer science, so we are asking experts that also know about at least work in computer science, but we also have mathematicians, physicists, biologists, etc., philosophers, and coming from cognitive sciences, neurosciences, etc., from robotics, economics, etc., etc. So very well represented. But the majority is work in computer science. And we asked also, well, not only computer science, do you work in AI? And more than 82% of the people working in computer science work also in AI. So we hope these people know about what they are defining or using. And experience in AI also very well represented. We have newcomers, but we also have people with more than 30 years, 10% more or less of the participants, but also with a lot of experience in AI, as you can see. Then we started asking about consensus. So maybe we are trying to do something that is not possible, or the people don't want to have that. And we had questions like this. A definition of intelligence is self-evident. And the big majority disagree or strongly disagree with that. It is not self-evident. And I want you to look at the orange, the people who don't know. Defining the goal of artificial intelligence is too difficult. The majority think, no, it is not. And we have some more people that don't know. There are differences in opinion concerning a definition of artificial intelligence that are difficult to bridge. Majority still no, I don't agree with that. But you see the people that don't know. We are not so sure. There is an implicit or even explicit belief that the definition of artificial intelligence does not pay off. Why doing that? Well, strongly agree, disagree, still winning. However, neutral, I am not so sure. This is the people we want to convince, if we can. Could be experienced as a restriction. When we define something, then maybe this can be the case. And the majorities agree with that. So if we define something, it doesn't mean necessarily we restrict its use or its applications, etc., etc. And now the neutral people is not too big as before. And almost the last one. It will never be possible to reach an agreement upon a definition of artificial intelligence at the big majority. No, this is not the case. We could still reach agreement. If it is important or not, the area we are developing these algorithms in, yes, we agree with that. Artificial intelligence will have implications, is having implications in the present, will have more in the future. So defining and agreeing upon artificial intelligence is not only about consensus. We also asked about, what do you think? One definition of artificial intelligence? Or do we need two definitions? One for machines. We are not talking about animal intelligence, only machine or human intelligence in this case, or in this survey. Or whether we should have two. Humans definitions of artificial intelligence, or for humans and for machines. And well, the majority, not the majority, but winning is we should have two different definitions, one for humans, one for machines. But not so far behind the people that say only one definition and it is enough. So consensus here is a very nebulous word. And this is how the people think about that, depending on the area they work in. For example, engineers or computer scientists, 50%, we need two different definitions. These are the people that are developing robots, artificial programs, etc., etc. Yes, we need two. However, the philosophers, they don't think we need two definitions. Only one is enough. And this is also very, very interesting. But also, so McCarthy in his blog, more than 10 years ago, is it possible to have a solid definition of intelligence that don't make reference to human intelligence? And he said that time, not yet, because there are a lot of different mechanisms we don't know how we can characterize. We are using, but we don't know how we can define intelligence. We don't know a lot of mechanisms that are related to intelligence. So now, or still, we have to refer to human intelligence when we develop artificial intelligence. We also asked about, okay, these definitions from the literature, how do you agree with that? Because we already have a lot of definitions. And the most accepted definitions, the third most accepted in the case of machine intelligence, artificial intelligence, was the one from Leck and Hutter, very well known in the AI community. It's a very short definition. Joanna's definition, she said yesterday, is a very simple one, very short one too. And this is the case also from Leck and Hutter. It's very short. Intelligence measures an agent's ability to achieve goals in a wide range of environments. Almost the same percent, so more or less 50% of the participants think, and this is the second best definition, that the one from Wisdom, artificial intelligence study of the computations that make it possible to perceive, reason, and act, is the best definition of intelligence, so for almost half of the participants. In this case, but artificial intelligence is defined as a field. It is not the case in the definition before. And the most agreed upon definition of machine intelligence from the list we had was the one from Wang, which is not a short definition. However, he defines also what characterizes intelligence. For example, insufficient knowledge and resources, but in dealing with real time, taking decisions in real time, he refers also to relative rationality, and he puts examples of these ways we can have or see intelligence. This was for machine intelligence, the three most agreed upon definitions. We also had a list of definitions coming from psychologists, neuroscientists, etc. And we also presented this definition to the participants. And the third most agreed definition of intelligence is the one from Wessler, also doing, or also presenting which characterizes so capacity, but also aggregate to think rationally, so also reference to rationality. The second most agreed upon was the one from Anastasia, quality of behavior, so something that we need to in order to behave. And the most agreed upon definition, even more than the best definition of artificial intelligence for participants coming in more than 70% from AI, was the definition that it is not from a computer scientist. It is from Linda Gottfredson. She is a psychologist. And this was the best definition overall. So maybe we are trying to find the best definition in an area in AI, but we have already definitions that are wide accepted by the participants, but also by the community. And the very reasons, so why is this definition the best one, is something we wanted to study. Coincidentally, in the book from Haya, this is also the most accepted definitions, wide accepted in the community of neuroscientists and psychologists. This is one picture from Haya 1 month ago. I had the opportunity to meet him and to talk about the topic. And it was also my question, why? So this was also the result in our survey. The best definition overall was the one from Gottfredson. And this was the point we wanted, or we started to think about, what is a good definition of intelligence? Which are the characteristics that should have a definition so that it is considered a good definition, and why the most accepted one? And this is why we then thought about why not having quality criteria for definitions. We have this in the software engineering, quality criteria for requirements. Why not having quality criteria for definitions? So we thought about the introduction of the book in the Journal of Intelligence, where the mainly authors are coming from areas which are not computer science, for example. And he says a good definition is, of course, seen as a condition for progress, and it should be sufficiently clear, but also widely accepted by the community. So the one from Gottfredson is widely accepted, not only by the community of neuroscientists and psychologists, but also by people not coming from these areas. So we went beyond these two, clearly widely accepted, and thought about other properties good definitions of intelligence could have. For example, being affirmative. And this comes through Aristotle more than 100 years ago, when he wrote about we should define things affirmatively, but also they should be scientifically valid or useful for a community, for the society, original too, so we don't have the same definition like the one provided by other people, but we also want to have examples of what are the capabilities that should be considered, should be easy to understand, etc., etc. And this one here on the corner, I think should be also a beautiful definition. So maybe we don't need to think about winning a Pulitzer Prize with a definition of intelligence, but if it is beautiful, it will also reach other hearts. The definition of Gottfredson, the most accepted one by the respondents, meets almost all quality criteria. And this is a good sign. It is not the case of other definitions. So I want to present now something that in other areas like behavioral economics, etc., is also very important to consider, and it is the cognitive biases, because we also asked about opinions about these definitions. And we were concerned because the definitions from the list, the agreement of the participants, had a very strong relation to the position on the list. So the agreement went down when the list or the position on the list increased. So the last definitions were taking or were not taking very good values. So we thought maybe it is something happening there, and we thought maybe it is anchoring effect. So the information that is presented at the beginning, it's the anchor, and the people then don't want to or prefer not to vary their opinion. And so this way we changed the position. Unfortunately, after 200 responses, so the last 250 responses were randomly positioned on the list. Oh, I should. And this was good because all definitions benefited from this change. So the agreement was better when the last definitions, for example, had a better position on the list. So it is important how do we present information to the users if you are developing systems, for example. This is not new, so this is the anchoring problem, very well-known bias, cognitive bias. So we had a corpus with comments because we not only asked it about, do you agree with this definition, yes or no, but, or how do you agree, in which scale, but why not? Oh, could you say why is this your answer? And we collected for the list of definitions of machine intelligence and for the list of definitions of human intelligence, more than 4,000 responses or opinions altogether that we wanted to analyze. Very interesting is that when the agreement was not so good, the amount or the amount of comments, no, the number of comments increased. So the number of comments increased with disagreement. And also, commented less when justifying why they do agree. And we were also, wow, this is something that we would like to have an explanation for. And it is nothing new. So it is the correlations also. So if you want to see this with correlations, indicate that for machine intelligence also, so when people disagree with that, they tend to comment more. And in the case of human intelligence too. But notice the difference. They do that differently when they are talking about machine or human intelligence. And this is not news, so this is some results consistent with the argumentative theory. So the main function of the reasoning is to produce arguments, and this could have confirmation bias, so they tend, of course, to be partial because they want to justify the opinions. And in the case of rejection, well, when rejecting what we are told, we normally try to justify why. And even more interesting is that we also invest more time justifying why. And the polarization increases with time. So it was also some research from other communities that supports the results we have had. So people comment more and polarize more when time increases. It is the contrary when we have positive agreements. So when we have good arguments, it is not a need to refute them. And this is also some bias, cognitive bias, that are well known. Examples of comments from people. Okay, for the definition of Peter and Norvig in the Artificial Intelligence and Modern Approach book, which is widely accepted in artificial intelligence courses worldwide. Hundreds of universities use this book for teaching artificial intelligence. The people didn't agree with the definition in our survey. It was the second less accepted definition overall. And it was, however, the most commented definition of intelligence. It was also the case for the definition of human intelligence from Stanovich. Almost no agreement, so a very, very low agreement. However, the people commented a lot. And we wanted to know why. So it is not because it is a short definition, because we also have other short definitions that have not these problems. It could be because of the cognitive biases we already have seen. And we thought, okay, let's see about the content. What about the content? And this uses rationality, so maybe it's a problem being rational, because maybe we make good decisions, are intelligent, but we are not rational at all when we do some things. But no, it doesn't have to do with that, because our definitions also use rationality, rational, rationally, etc. in their text. However, comments, why not? Include rational in the comment in almost 40% in this case, in the case of this definition. And also best, it was something that irritated a lot of respondents. The best possible action, no, it should not be the best, and the comments all go around that. But maybe this is or this indicates a new bias, which is focusing effect. So maybe people are focusing on some words that, okay, best, rational, and go all the comment writing about that. And they are not considering that it is mainly with rational actions, not always, or ideally taking the best possible action, but ideally in ideal conditions, not always. So people are concentrating and focusing maybe on something from the definition and overseeing the rest. So we think that analyzing how do people think, how do people right about intelligence, could be a sign in order to understand intelligence better. And I will show you then more examples why and what we are doing with that. We tried to automatize the process. So could technology help us in this process of analyzing more than 4,000 comments? And they are only few comments if you compare with comments we have in social networks in a minute worldwide. And we tried to, or we used the perspective API, this is one work with one of my students, to try to identify when comments, for example, are perceived as toxic or not, because we have a lot of disagreement. And maybe with one goal in mind, to try to provide guidelines for the community when to comment and how to comment when we talk about intelligence. So she developed an application, and we had something like that. It is not an easy task, because, for example, this comment, define intelligence, or what about defining intelligence? I am not that stupid. Toxicity level 0.64. It could be greater or higher. But the second one, I like Chris Riesbeck's definition of AI, the attempt to understand why computers are so stupid. This is not a toxic comment like the one before. However, it has a higher toxicity level. And the last one, intelligence not originating from a human being. It takes almost 0.5 toxicity level, and this is not a toxic comment. So we cannot use technology, not now, to do that. So we need humans in the process, still humans in the process. More about analyzing the texts. We use a tool for analyzing different variables. For example, analytical thinking, authenticity, emotional tone, etc., etc. It is lexicon-based, so they have a dictionary and they compare the text you provide with the dictionary they have and try to give you some output variables depending on that. And these few next slides are only for partial results, but they are consistent also with the end results, only that I didn't have on time for today. But almost all comments or responses were analyzed. And the analytical thinking, so degree to which people use words that suggest formal, logical, or hierarchical thinking patterns. We had higher mean values for machine intelligence definitions than for human intelligence definitions, so see the difference once again. And the most accepted definitions from machine intelligence and human intelligence got a very, very high value. So when people comment about good definitions, or what they think they are good definitions of machine intelligence or of artificial intelligence, their comments had a high analytical value. That is good. But also the authenticity, so being authentic, honest. The higher percents, or the averages, the higher ones, were for human intelligence. The most of the people come from computer science and are not neuroscientists, etc. So maybe commented about something they don't work with. It is more authentic when they comment, and this was the case. And the emotional tone, so being positive or negative, etc., it was positive in general, even for definitions when the people do not agree with them. This was the case for the definition of Rosalind Novick. The highest positive tone, the most commented definitions, the less, almost the less agreed upon. So this is also good news. We also compare what about agreement. When they agree, how is the analytical thinking? And in the case of human intelligence, when they agree, the analytical thinking also tends to increase. It is not the case of machine intelligence. The authenticity, being authentic, is also, so people are less authentic when they agree more. but it's also a different human between machines. We have differences there. And also the emotional tone. So when people do not disagree, the emotional tone decreases. In the case of human intelligence, we have almost no correlation at all. So we have differences. How do people view, understand, perceive, react to human intelligence and machine intelligence is different, so maybe we need different definitions, which is in accordance with the answers from the respondents. The majority or the winning group prefer to have two different definitions in this case. We also asked, okay, not only selecting, agreeing upon, and writing why, but tell me, how would you define intelligence? And it was something very interesting because a lot of people provided their suggested definition. We have people that also provided their name and that had interest in publishing their definition of intelligence in a forthcoming publication, but also anonymously, and also people that wrote, I am not interested in the publication, but my definition would be this and this and this. And we collected this way lots of definitions. For example, the one from John Fox. So definitions like this. He put emphasis on cognitive abilities. Capabilities should be part of the definition. And he says, this list is incomplete. There are more capabilities that we need to define, to use when we talk about intelligence. Or this definition from Marek Rosa from Good AI. Searching for solutions to problems. It is generally enough. He was, for example, one of the people that think only one definition is enough. He comes from computer science. He is doing AI. It is short, general. The one from Douglas Hofstadter, also very well known. Beautiful definition. Intelligence is the ability to find close analogs. When you compare with past experiences, the ability to come up with strong and useful analogies. The one from Peter Stone, from the study panel for 100 years, study of AI in Texas. He defines machine intelligence as a field trying to replicate human behavior. And Johanna, the definition from yesterday, so she provided also definition in the survey, doing the right thing at the right time. If you want or you have some context, you need to define what is the right thing for a society, for the agent, for people using these algorithms. But also the one from Jürgen Schmidhuber, also very well known in this area, where we have standards that are defined by the society and problems also that are considered relevant for the society. And in consequence, we define intelligence according to that. So we humans define intelligence. So we had a lot of different definitions. What we are doing now is trying to annotate the definitions. For example, how do they meet or fulfill the quality criteria we define it? We are doing this with my students. And one other thing we are doing is trying to visualize the whole thing. So two students have created an application in which we analyze the comments using natural language processing libraries, and then trying to produce such graphs. We are also trying to document the process, storytelling of all the working in this area. So this was the first one. One definition, trying to represent this graphically, and going through the history of creating this. And for example, this is the one for the definitions of human intelligence. So what we want to do with that is to try to represent visually so that we can help people trying to find a definition, also trying to find which are the most used, the most representative capabilities that maybe they can move in the graph and see how do they relate to other capabilities when they need to define intelligence. And this is a one for machine intelligence, also different to the ones from human intelligence. So we also have differences here when we represent this graphically. Could we really reach consensus? I don't know. So we don't want to find the best definitions. The idea is to find the boundaries. What the current discussion about artificial intelligence and machine intelligence or human intelligence is about. And we think that if we want to have clarity, we must include experts' opinions, because AI is changing daily. And we have arguments that support different definitions, but also are against different definitions. So a lot of people think we only need one. And in a lot of contexts, we only have or need a general definition of intelligence that maybe we may specify depending on the context. So we were searching for consensus, some definition. A lot of people agree with. And now we have more than 400 definitions we are analyzing, but we are certain we can find the boundaries, and this is what we are still doing in this research. It would be great if we can have also your opinion, which are your definitions of artificial intelligence. This is why on the top is the link to the survey, an ongoing survey. We have the final results, but we are still interested in what the community or what other people think about. And this is the contact information in case you have any questions that I cannot answer today. Thank you so much.